Well, I like what you have now.
Thanks, and welcome everybody to our Muck Rack LinkedIn Live, Humans and Machines, Redefining Crisis Comms in the Age of AI. I'm Greg Gallant, the co-founder and CEO of Muck Rack. As we get started, I'm coming live from Miami. Let me know where you all are in the comments. And today we're exploring how AI is reshaping crisis comms, how technology is changing not just how crises unfold, but how communicators like you all can respond with authenticity and control. At Muck Rack, we're seeing a lot more teams stay lean using AI tools to gather insight, but still keeping the human element at the center. And to learn about all this and get at the forefront, we wanted to find a speaker who knows this cold. And that's why I couldn't be more excited to be joined by Molly McPherson, a leading voice in crisis comms with decades of experience in public affairs, emergency management, and digital media strategy. You might know her also as the PR lady on TikTok, where she's built a following of more than 500,000 by breaking down real-world PR lessons from brands and public figures. Molly will walk us through how AI is transforming the crisis landscape and introducing ideas like GEO and showing how PR professionals can use AI to adapt. And after Molly's presentation, we'll be taking your questions. So please drop them in the comments, and I will then present them to Molly. And so with that, Molly, why don't you take it away?
All right. Thanks so much, Greg. And thank you all for joining us. I really appreciate being a part of this Muck Rack presentation. Everybody is jumping in right now from all these different places, from Ireland, New York City, Nashville, Cleveland. But we're all here talking about the same topic, and it's a new one. Now, let me tell you right off the bat, I do not claim to be an AI expert by any means. I'll consider myself a quasi early adopter, that when it started to come out in the ether, so to speak, I jumped in on it right away. Full transparency in terms of how I use it. I don't use it for writing, but I like using it as a strategic partner because it really does help, lift the load, kind of a lot of that dirty work. But it creates a whole new element when it comes to public relations and also in my area of specialty, which is crisis management. So we're going to go through a topic today. I know this is broad, crisis comms in the age of AI. I mean, it can mean so many different things. We're going to represent just one part of it today, and that's how it ties into PR and reputation specifically. All right. Moving along. I also want you to feel free, jump in the comments as well. Greg's going to be monitoring. Greg's team is going to be monitoring. And then we will, I always like to look in chats myself because I'm a biggie for interactive engagement. So it is 11 a.m. my time, Eastern Standard Time. And this morning, I did something. I hopped on social media. And I broke down a statement. That's what I typically do. That's what I like to do on social media. Even though I work as a full-time crisis manager, reputation strategist for clients, I like to hop online and kind of look at the statements they're heading out there. I was at my work. I was actually looking at this presentation when I got the notification that Larry Summers came out with the statement. So I immediately went online. And I went to an AI website. I am curious, like from the chat, like which ones do you use? Now, I happen to go to Perplexity for the reason that Perplexity kind of sources the information. I never pull anything that I see on AI straight as fact, and I'm going to get into more of that later and why that matters. But it gives me the link of where I need to go to find that information. So I brought up the statements. The statement that came out today was about, ironically enough, like Larry Summers stepping back from the board of OpenAI. So that was one, and I needed to find the statement, because when I was looking at Perplexity, there's a lot of general information in there, but I did not get the specific statement, and that's what I wanted. But what I was doing is what we're talking about today. I wanted to get information. I wanted to find that information, and I didn't go to Google. I wasn't looking at page one Google. I went to a website, an AI website. So instead of looking at SEO, I was looking at what was generated by AI. So another aspect of that is not only what is being sent to you via via an AI website or an AI agent, but also what are you reading in terms of a statement or material or background? Is it generated by a human or by AI? And now I got to be honest, when I was reading Larry Summers' statement, I'm always looking for the tells that tells me, is this genuine? Not only from a public sentiment point of view, but I'm also looking at it. Is it genuine from a human point of view? Has it been aided, by AI? And maybe it's just me. This is how my brain works, but this is what I do. What it signals is that there's a new crisis landscape that is being shaped by machines. I am a huge believer. I am always looking at the most important metric, at least for me in crisis management, is I'm looking at human sentiment. I want to know what the public is thinking, positive, negative, neutral, whatever it is. That's one thing I use Muck Rack for, is to find out what people are saying online. That's a good marker of it. But nowadays, we have these two areas of search. Many people are familiar with SEO. I made a mistake of assuming that everyone was familiar with it. And I made a couple posts recently, and I mentioned SEO in the post. I used the acronym. And there's so many people in the chat asking, what's SEO stand for? And then someone in the chat explained what search engine optimization was. They were doing my job for me. But I thought, isn't that interesting that isn't just like common knowledge anymore? But it's important because SEO is rank for clicks. We're all there. We're all in the day and age, right? Like, what do we want when we are proactively pitching stories? We want that page one, primarily Google. I mean, there's plenty of search engines out there, but Google, owned by Alphabet, that's where we want to rank now. But I'm curious from you all, if you want information, whether it's information having to do with your work, whether it's a news story, whether you need to figure out how to set a tide clock, like I was doing over the weekend when I couldn't figure out because it was a Swedish tide clock and it was in Swedish. How do you get information now? Do you go to Google? Do you go to YouTube or AI? Now, I have to be honest. I take a photo of my Swedish tide clock and then I say, hey, AI, how do I fix it? That's the difference between SEO and GEO. Now, there's different words and different acronyms because this industry is changing so much, but where I land, and I know Greg and I just talked about this. He was on my podcast last week, the PR Breakdown podcast. We were talking about how GEO impacts, public relations and crisis management. And he and I both agree, we work with the GEO aspect of it, the generative engine optimization. The idea behind this now, as PR people, we have to look at not just how our clients end up on page one or page two. When it's proactive, we love page one. When it's crisis management, sometimes we don't want page one. But now we have to think about AI and how do we land there? Judith was saying no single source. It's best to triangulate. That's a really good point. And Judith bringing up a really good point here. Sometimes we don't just land in one place. We all go to different places right now. So what does this mean for us? Well, it kind of means more work, unfortunately, but it's important work. Now, in my world, in crisis management, this is something that I share with my clients when we are dealing with an issue. Right now, I can't say who the client is, but I have a call with them later on today. But this is a conversation that is happening online, page one Google, Reddit, social media. It's kind of a murmur that's happening right now. We're kind of watching it, but I know in a time frame in the future, it's going to explode. And when we're discussing this issue and we're discussing different pieces of content that we're doing, I mean, it truly, they're not the one in crisis, but they're adjacent to the crisis. So we're managing like, oh, when this thing blows, is this going to help or is this going to hurt? So we're navigating it. As I counsel this person, we are talking about Google. We are talking about social media, but we're also talking about AI because the topic is kind of a legacy topic. It's very topical, top of mind, like everybody's kind of chatting about, and I wish I could tell you, but I can't. But it is legacy. Like it is going to be there for the long term. So part of my, part of my work with this client is we're looking at all the areas, website, Google, and all the search engines. We're looking at social media, but we're also looking at AI because we know AI is going to scrape that information. And where does it come from? Anne's adding this. Okay, own research showing that 50% of people were using GEO to look for B2B or software. Fast forward to August, just 4 months, it jumped 80%. And thank you so much for sharing that fact. This is a rapid change, even with me and my work. So when people are looking for names or reputation, they're not just going to Google now. They want to go to AI for truth. But that truth has changed a little because the truth is now about summary, right? Like, what do we do? Like, I'll still use Google and I'll use it on my phone because I love the summary. I don't even go to the links anymore. It's like, just give me the summary. But how do we know if that summary is accurate? I know for a fact, I can say this personally and I can say this professionally. The summary, the AI summary, and if it's Google, the Gemini summary has been wrong. And it doesn't mean that the technology necessarily is wrong. It's where they're pulling the information. The narrative is not true. So what this means is that if your message isn't already trained into a system, you've lost control of the narrative. You need to ensure that your message, your information is as accurate on your website as it appears on a website on Google or Safari, whatever search engine that you're using, but that also appears on AI as well. Because GEO is ensuring that AI cites you and your information. Now, it's not as good about citing the negative or the critics. That's not going to be top of mind, but it also does bring it into the mix, like the criticism and what people are saying about you. I know one thing that Perplexity does, which is going to get kind of sticky in the future because there are lawsuits out there, but it will call information from TikTok. It will call information, from Reddit. But the job of the end user is to kind of go through that information. And we can't guarantee that the end user is going to do that. So generative search right now is completely rewiring and rewriting the PR playbook. I just finished writing my own PR playbook for social media. And the fact that I have to rewrite it again for AI, it's a lot of work. It is a lot of work and it's really difficult to keep up with it. Now, I'll admit, like, I'm not coming to you as an expert in it by any means. I'm just coming to you as someone who's looking at it, who's using it, who's counseling through it, and who's watching it, in real time. I'm looking to the experts, to tell me. And we have, someone right here, professional SEO and guest posting, specialist, and helping people, achieve, in posts and things like that.
They've got to change their title to professional GEO specialist.
Yeah, professional GEO, exactly. So think of how the PR playbook is being rewritten right now. Okay, so we have the input. It goes on a website. It's on social media. It's in the press. It's something that's been picked up in the press. That and goes to a place that I am always following, and that's public perception. I weight public perception so high, higher than most, but it really does matter because it creates this loop. And the loop is, it starts off with the message, whatever it is. People are looking for official statements. They're looking for press releases. They're looking for media statements, whether it's a pitch or a crisis response. That message is going out there. It's in social media, if you share it on social media, or in the case of like Larry Summers, he sent it directly to the press. And the New York Times picked it up and posted it. CNN picked it up and posted it. Axios picked it up and posted it. And then it goes into the machine. And the machine to me is the algorithm, but also AI and GEO. Because when it gets there, it's really out of our hands and it can go anywhere. And where it lands is what shapes the mindset. The mindset is my metric. That's what matters to me. I'm not as much, because I'm more of a reactive risk crisis management person. I'm not about, hey, how many clicks do we get? That's proactive PR, which many of you are experts in that. What I'm looking for is, what is the mindset and the perception that people feel based on the information that they're receiving? And if it is going through the filter of a machine and they get it wrong, that can be problematic. Also, AI doesn't read the same as SEO and page one Google, where we have links and they're weighted by the amount of clicks. That's why things, if you think back in the time of listicles, when everything was about, getting people to click, getting people to click, getting people to click. Now, so much what becomes incredibly valuable is just information and pointing people in a certain direction. Another big risk that I'm dealing with a lot is misinformation. I say that word 10 times every single day. Misinformation is a big problem, because not only does misinformation shape a reputation in the wrong way, misinformation ends up on AI websites. It ends up on ChatGPT. It ends up in Perplexity. And this is going to be a big problem, because AI is going to spread it. And whose job is it to contain that? This is something I added this in because I saw this article yesterday. As a matter of fact, my daughter, who is a journalism major at Boston University, sent this to me because she was because it talks about what's happening in the news industry. And this article happens to be about a study by the RTDNA and Syracuse University talking about burnout in TV news. Now, why does this connect with our conversation today? The article the article summarized, and the study as well, that younger journalists are leaving the field. They're quiet quitting. They're quitting like, I'm done. I was on the phone yesterday with a longtime journalist who I worked with, and they put me on the air plenty of times. They're getting out. They want to get out of the business. And a big part of it is that there is such burnout because there's such a demand for content right now. And it's not just putting it out on their own airways or printing it, but also for their own websites. So what this means is that the pipeline of content is thinning, and the turnover is accelerating faster than reporters can put out that information. So what that means to you, for people who are in PR, is that pitching story ideas are now more important. You need to provide solid background information, but you need to make the job easier for reporters, because newsrooms right now are overwhelmed. And I know this just because in my world, my partner's a news journalist, and we talk about it every single day. I'm always hearing about how he's putting stories together and who's pitching him and a press release or this, that, and the other thing. So I get to see it from both sides. But if there's one thing that I definitely know, is that these newsrooms are stressed. So it gives us an opportunity as communicators to help journalists tell our stories. Because if our stories are in the hands of a journalist and it gets on air or the printed word in a newspaper and it ends up on a website, that is what gets picked up by the AI machine. And that is what's going to end up on AI. So your material becomes a part of the AI loop. So why?
I just wanted to jump in with a comment from one of our viewers saying, I think it's worth considering that a lot of people will not verify or fact check what AI says.
Oh, that is such a good point, because I believe you. That's true. You have to take so much information. And I've spoken to clients who I have to kind of talk off the ledge sometimes about that as well, because they'll look online and they'll see something that's wrong, or it picks up a criticism. Like in one example, it was a public Facebook group that was putting, opinion on there. So that was definitely misinformation, but it became a part of the summary. And that caused a lot of strife. And understandably so. Like, I understood it. So what we need to do as PR pros, we need to find that sweet spot to help people. So really important in what we do. Credibility is important. Consistency is important. And also clarity. Clarity is another word for transparency, but people don't like the word transparency when they're in the middle of a crisis, because it feels like they have to give all the information out there. But I'm like, no, we love transparency. But another way of saying that is clarity, because we want AI, we want GEO to see clarity. Clarity is another word for truth. And GEO is just PR at the algorithm speed. Think about it. ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, whatever it is, it's PR. If you think about it, it is a machine putting out your information. And if that information is great information and it's accurate information, this is good. This is what you want to be a part of. Think about that big rush of information. If it's good, it's solid, it's reliable, incredible, it's incredibly valuable. That's why you want to have consistent messaging where you can. Keep putting the information out there, but don't get burnt out. But keep getting the information out there if you can, because it's going to be picked up. Now, it should be important to say that there are lawsuits out there. Right now, there's major lawsuits. New York Times sued OpenAI and Microsoft, alleging that millions of the articles were used without consent. That's something that's happening there. There's also IPs and people taking information from books, so on and so forth. All that stuff is changing, and it's changing rapidly. But what that means to us right now is we just want to put information out there where we can, and doing it in our own spaces help. Our own spaces are websites. In the middle of a crisis, like if there's a big viral issue happening on TikTok, for instance, or a Facebook group, I don't tell the client to put a statement or to go to that place to correct the record, because they're just going to get caught up in the machine or in the algorithm. I tell them, let's go back to the own place. Let's go back to your website. That is a source, a foundational source of truth. And that website is what's going to be picked up as well, not just for SEO, but GEO as well. The other things that move quickly through AI and gets picked up by AI are quotes and official statements. They like that because there's a quotation mark and there's words, and then it's attached to a name. Now, if that statement is in a website, that's valuable. You get points for that. But if that statement is in the New York Times or USA Today or on the website of NBC News, it's going to get a lot of points behind it, where it's going to be pushed out there as well. So consistent messaging is a way to get the truth out there. It doesn't guarantee that what shows up on AI is going to be accurate, but the more places that you put out accurate information, the greater likelihood that people are going to see, they're going to see accurate information there. So before and during, after the crisis, these are some of the things that we want you to look at. This is what I share with my clients as well. Audit what AI says about your brand. That should be a task for someone at your job. Don't give it to the junior person or the social media person who's already overwhelmed. I'm the biggest advocate for our social media teams because they are burnt out, just like the study about young journalists. I say the same thing about our social media teams, but they're good at it. But this is a function that we should probably be adding now, is the accuracy piece of it. Keep your content factual, up to date, and consistent. I was working with a client recently and they needed to fact check something, and I went to their website and it said 2018. Like, that's not up to date. We need to update our information. If you're in a crisis, release statements fast across credible sources, correct misinformation immediately. Can you go to the AI agents? Can you go to ChatGPT? Can you do all that? Yes, but the quick way to do it, the shortcut, is to correct your information and get that out there. Anything post-crisis is we want to publish, anything that's accurate, the factual information. And then you want to refresh it where you can. And if it matters, if you keep refreshing your content, updating your content, it's going to rewire or retrain AI on the most current story, because that's what it's looking at. So this is a quick checklist, for how you look at it. One, like I just mentioned, audit the algorithm. Take the time, put yourself in there. And also you could start with your name. You could start with you and see how you're represented. See how your company's represented. See how your clients represented. Screenshot anything that's not accurate, so that can be fixed. Second, clarify the story and then repeat it until it echoes. In other words, if there's misinformation out there, you want to write in a very succinct, direct, clear way to update it. The repetition is what builds the reputation. It adds to the credibility the more that you say it and the more that you put it out there. Then you feed the machines and you feed it credibility. That means posting information on social media. That means sharing your content. And it also means pitching your content if you're doing it for yourself, your company, or your client. And repeat. Keep putting the information out there. Monitor it. Correct and update ruthlessly. This is important. We're still in the Wild West of information, misinformation, and AI. It's changing constantly. Unfortunately, it's just one more thing on our already busy plate. But how can you set yourself apart from other people in your organization, or competitively if you're looking for other jobs out there or working with clients, is that you're the one who gets it. You're the one who understands that everything really boils down to one word. So whether it's crisis management or proactive pitching a product, it's trust. Do they trust you? Do they trust you to repair your relationship? Do they trust you to maintain it or to improve it? Doesn't matter if you're a brand or a person. If people trust you or trust your product, that's going to move. And then build narrative equity before you need it. That means producing content. The workload is going to be heavy. The demand is high, but we all know this is the reality of things. Content is still king, or content is still queen. I've been watching the American Revolution with Ken Burns. So we're a whole thing about kings and loyalists and everything, but it matters. Content matters right now, and you need to do whatever you can to make sure that it moves. And if it gets picked up by the machine, that it's picked up accurately. AI doesn't invent credibility. It reflects it. I don't like using AI to write for me. I mean, my team can use it for marketing materials. Like, I think it's accepted that we can use it for that kind of basic language where we need it. But when it comes to content that matters, or that's me, or that's from me, the content needs to be from me and myself. AI can't write for something that we can write for. And this is what I say is AI doesn't have a soul. We do. And people can write for that. And very quickly, I want to point out that yesterday I saw that there's a study that came out that Google, so Gemini, is the highest scoring large language model, LLM, on a recent test of empathy and safety for people with mental health challenges. So we're starting to track these things now and study these things, because so many people are using, AI for mental health. So Google is at the top. Grok, it turns out, is least empathetic, most dangerous, as it comes out to this, for this study. Take from it what you will. But what it does speak to is like the soulless part of it. We can't rely on AI for everything. Reputations depend on what's happening here in your head and in your own heads, but also in your heart. Because I'm a big public sentiment person. AI is not going to give you sentiment. You are, as writers. So whether it's proactive pitching or reactive crisis management, but you can support what the machine's are already saying about you. And the question isn't if AI will tell your story, I'm dash in there. It's how accurately it tells your story. That is what is most important nowadays, at least in the terms of my work. I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to me. I'm going to look at some of the content or some of the questions that you have as well. Here's my contact information. If you want any more information, of course, I'm on Substack, Instagram, and TikTok. And this QR code, jumping in the world of it and the bandwagon of it all, I have my own AI agent. It's Mullify. The idea is spin on words about calming things. So all my work, and this ties into what we're talking about today, all the information is contained from my information. It's my playbooks, it's my templates, it's how I do my work with clients, but it also takes in all my podcasts and social media. So anything that I've said, it's not scraping the internet out there for other information. It's like a closed system. So this is a system that I have right now. I have a free version and then also a more accelerated, elevated version if you need to write statements or plans or anything like that, but it's in that closed system. So I want to thank Muck Rack and Greg for allowing me the time to speak with all of you. Thanks so much.
Great. Thank you, Molly. And before we get into the questions, we got a few questions, including this one from Kathy Bennett saying, this is great. Will the deck be made available afterwards? So for all of you tuning in live on LinkedIn, and maybe you want to share this with a colleague or go back if you didn't have a chance to take notes or anything, we're going to share the recorded version of this on the Muck Rack YouTube channel. So if you go to youtube.com/Muck Rack or just Google or actually ask AI what's the URL of the Muck Rack YouTube channel, and then subscribe, you'll be the first to get this recording. And so please ask your questions now. And let's start with this. I guess this is more of a statement, but I'm curious to get your reaction to it. Molly, Tala Brooks says, worth noting, there is a shadow field of orgs who make fake or bot articles to influence AI scraping, kind of similar back to the old black hat tactics of SEO, where people would stuff in keywords to websites. So I guess people can use this both to promote themselves, maybe where, unjustly, or to defame someone else. What's your take on just kind of in the crisis world, how do you deal with these bad actors who are trying to game the system?
Oh my gosh, Caleb, it's so funny that you said that about black hats and white hats. I was just referring to black hats and white hats yesterday with a client because it explains it so well, doesn't it? What a black hat effort is compared to a white one. You're absolutely right. I mean, certainly the bot factor comes into a lot of things. And there's two ways that I look at it. So a lot of the clients that I'm dealing with, whether they're, whether it's an association or mid-level or a national brand, or it's like a person. So no matter which sector they fall in, from utility to entertainment, it doesn't matter. It matters on the scale, because some people in their crisis isn't really bot worthy, if you will, so like, where did we see bots and where do we see interference? I mean, we hear about it in these narratives around politics and around celebrities and where things matter in terms of public sentiment. So that's a really, really good point. It's another way where people are trying to game the system and get around it. It's important to have awareness of it, understand it. It does come up with my client conversations a lot where they ask about bots. My inner monologue is saying, don't worry about it. No one is even spending an ounce of time on bots about your crisis. But I don't say that, but I have to explain to them the incident rate of bots. But when we're talking about a bigger national narrative type or global type story, that is a big part of it as well. And so that's why I guess the bigger you are when you have those teams that are in there to bust that and to look into that and how it's used. I mean, certainly, so it's important to know it. But I would say like day to day for a lot of us on this call, it's not as relevant, but you're absolutely right for bringing that up as a point.
We had another comment from Anne saying the most cited domains by AI models are Reddit, Wikipedia, YouTube. Keep an eye on those websites. I'll add, in our generative pulse study, we saw, as you mentioned, news and earned media collectively is an even bigger impact. But I think Anne makes a great point that there are these I'd heard a lot of people tell me like, hey, they kind of wrote off Wikipedia and Reddit a while ago, and now all of a sudden it matters again. So, what do we do about that, and how do we engage with all that?
That's a really good point, because I mean, Reddit was something that I used to follow, but I always thought that was pretty savvy because I was the only one kind of going to Reddit. But AI follows Reddit. Reddit comes up a lot, and Wikipedia. So, Anne, very good point. Wikipedia as well, with Wikipedia sourcing. Naturally, it's going to show up in a lot of the AI.
Yeah, great point. And then what do you do about, when you have a client and there's something bad about them on Wikipedia? I think every PR person's face that. What's your advice to people? Like, just try to counter it with other sites or engage on Wikipedia?
No, you can actually engage with Wikipedia, because how Wikipedia is set up, they do have community guidelines, and everything is heavily sourced information. I mean, what really fuels Wikipedia and sources it is the actual source and the citing of it. And they have a community of editors there. So if there is misinformation on Wikipedia, it is important to correct that. And especially now, because Wikipedia is still big for me, because I think there's a lot of people when it comes to crisis management, even if something's happening and it's now and they want to deny, I always tell them that's what extends the crisis. And then more articles come. And then what happens is you have your wiki legacy. That's what I say. Like, you don't want this to be the wiki legacy where everybody else has moved on, but it will live forever on Wikipedia, because I still look at Wikipedia as an important source in terms of reputation. And now that it's being used with AI, it makes it even that much more important.
I'll take another comment from Marlo Rodman, who says, agree, back to your comment. AI doesn't have a soul, nuance, context, etc. That's where we as PR professionals come in. And, maybe I'll throw a question I hear a lot when I'm just looking on like the PR Reddit, which is a lot of people saying like, hey, is AI just going to take all of the PR jobs, and can PR just be done by AI? Just ask PR to make write the press release, make the media list, do everything for you. What's your take for someone trying to choose their career now? Like, what is PR as a profession going to be?
Yeah, I just had this conversation, like I said, with someone who's leaving news to go into the communication space, and so this is someone who's, going to a manager level, if you will, and just looking at some of the profile photos, it's a lot of the same age. And they sent the job description to me, and I was looking at all the bullets and what they're looking for in terms of communication. So a big part of it was storytelling, and which I thought was so interesting how they're saying it, because it's really, they want PR. I mean, that's what they want. But it was now framed as storytelling, and how do we tell a story? And then what do you do with that story? And how do you get that story out there? And it's not just the press release, though it's still important, because what gets picked up, AI is going to pick up press releases. So now press releases are still relevant, which is great. But also, how do you engage with social media? Because social media gets picked up as well. How do we engage with certain influencers? Because influencers are going to put more messaging out there as well. All of these are areas of public relations, and it's all content as well, for the goal of perception. Now, perception in the reputation game, I mean, how we measure that, of course, is again kind of like that trust and how people perceive you. But if it's a product, like in the case of this job, it's a whole product line. How are we putting it out there? That whole storytelling communication manager job was really about PR. But how do you figure out PR now in this day and age, from 2025 going into 2026? So when I was counseling this person, I was saying, I need you to be the person who understands social media engagement, you understand media relations, you understand interactions with journalists and how to maintain that. But I also want you to be the AI person. Because someone is the executive VP of this big company or big brand, doesn't mean that they know anything about AI. They don't. but you need to do it. So if you're also like, if you're at that manager level right now, you're working in PR, maybe you're at a big agency, maybe you feel like you're just one of many people there and your job is just to get stories out there. Also work on PR for yourself. Be the expert. Be the person who understands this. I come in telling you right off the bat, I'm not an expert by any means. I think I know more than the average cat out there about this, but I'm always trying to learn more. And I never feel that I'm behind the curve because the curve constantly changes. But for people, especially Gen Z out there, and more millennials out there, if this is your generation right now and you guys want to own it.
Yeah, well said, Molly. I think it kind of reminds me like when I got started in my career and the web was new and I was in high school, or social media was new and I was in my early 20s. It's like there were no experts or anyone who spent 2 minutes, researching this. You could know more, and if you're new to the field, you probably know more than the people who are established doing their thing. So I think that idea of like staying a student and not being afraid of trying new things and leading the way is really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, and I think this kind of is a great question from Kelly Flynn that really it drives at how fast things are changing. Kelly says, PRSA's recent update to the ethical use of AI guidelines says, quote, clearly indicate when AI tools have meaningfully shaped content, strategy recommendations, or audience interactions. This includes text, social posts, imagery, data analysis, video, and synthesized voices, end quote. And Kelly's question to you is, how do you define meaningfully? And do you think eventually there will be a backlash for PR professionals who do not openly cite their use of AI?
Kelly is bringing up such a good point. And as a PRSA member myself, I renewed my APR certification in public relations about a year and a half ago. Okay. So taking all that, you have to take like an ethical guidelines and training. So I did this just before they updated their standards on ethics. It's a good statement what PRSA said about citing information, but I do think, it's a little gray in the sense that AI is a tool now. Like you can look at AI almost like a Canva, where Canva is the shortcut for, maybe you don't know Adobe Illustrator, but Canva, and that can make things easier for you. If you're going to put information, like so many people use AI to generate information, or like decks or graphics and things like that. I'm a big person in saying that. Like if something is generated, if I like do an article in Substack and I go to AI and say, create something for me in the source, I will certainly cite that. But it's hard, right? Like if you're using it for marketing or for funnels and things like that, it's not easy. Kelly, it's a great question because it is murky, and everybody else, it's kind of becoming a standard right now. But as I said from the beginning, if this is an ethical question, this is my ethos. Like I said in the beginning, we all have to have our own personal ethos, and mine happens to align with the PRSA ethical guidelines. I don't want to pass off AI as something that I'm claiming that is my own. But if we're writing a press release, can it hone it or make it better? I just think that's a good practice anyway, to be writing our stuff as much originally as we can, but we can certainly bring it through Grammarly or something else, and even ChatGPT, it can make it better. So I don't have the final answer in it, but I just wanted to give you my point of view on it, that I think it's changing a lot. I don't think a lot of people necessarily follow that, but if you are the practitioner who does, I think you'll be better for it.
Yeah, well said. I imagine a lot of it seems like it's evolving so quickly, where a couple of years ago it was like disclose it. Now, to me, in a way, it's like if someone wrote the first version of a press release with AI, then they edit it and fact check it and go over it, disclosing like, hey, the first draft was written with AI, it'd be like disclosing, in another world, like, oh, an intern wrote the first draft of this. Like, maybe that's almost irrelevant. And the thing that really matters is like, is the final product right? Because we've seen so many people get into trouble where they put out a final product, AI hallucinated a part of it, which would have been fine if they double checked everything, but they put it out there without double checking everything. And now they've got a crisis of their own making.
Yeah. And also, just to add to this, I have my own AI agent. Okay. Like I mentioned, Mollify. And people, use it to help write their statements and their plans and things like that. This product is designed for people to use my work on AI. I don't want them sourcing me and giving me credit and saying Mollify wrote this. No, it's theirs, because what they're getting is just me. It's not just going to be a machine, but it's pulling from all my words. But I don't have a problem with them using it because it's not replacing their mind. It's like they're hiring me to do it, and they're getting from, just my resources. It's gray again. It's murky. I can't say one way or the other, black and white. We all need to decide how to do it. But I guess a big believer is have AI be your strategic partner and brainstorm. I look at it, they could be your new intern, or they could be the contractor that you bring in, but just use them as that partner. But in the end, everything should come from you in your head.
Well said. Yeah, and I think it cuts back to that it's such a fast evolving area. There's no standards. And if the second we develop a standard, it might be out of date in 6 months. And to that end, there's a question from Jen Kingard saying, how do we make that AI use statement? What wording can we use? Molly, you already kind of hinted at the challenges of what to do in social posts, but what's your guidance to somebody wondering about?
Well, so I'm curious, like what's that question? How do we make that AI? I don't know if Jenny can bring that up again.
Yeah, Jenny, you can pull that up. What I read into Jen's question, and Jen, if you want to type more, feel free, is following on Kelly's point about the PRSA update.
Oh, like on Kelly's for ethical. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Like how exactly would you, we already said, well, probably not going to put in the press release, but I don't know if it was your social post, or let's say it's your, an image that you make, right? Like then you definitely want to disclose if it's, Molly going jet skiing while making her type TikTok, like how do you disclose that you made that image with AI?
Yeah, oh gosh, I don't want to be the person up here that says to be unethical or to go against guidelines from my very own association that I'm accredited by and a member of. But how I told you how I use it. Like if I'm ever using it for imagery whole cloth, I'm going to source it. I will always source and say, this is an AI generated image. Like that will always be there. But if you are writing a press release and you're assisted by that, or even if you're using Muck Rack and a feature in Muck Rack where it helps you write a press release, Greg, what do you think? Are you going to have an asterisk at the bottom that says this was assisted by it? What do you think?
I'll put it right next to where we say that, we use spell check to put this out in Microsoft Word. And, it's just, I agree. I feel like these are all tools we use in creating content, and all that matters is the person putting it out takes complete ownership of its accuracy and also realizes they're fully accountable for what's in that document, whether it was written by AI, their PR expert, their PR intern, their outside PR firm. Like the public journalists don't care who wrote the statement from the company. They're just going to hold the company accountable to the statement.
Well said. Well said. I totally agree.
We got some more questions. One from Richard Ben. Molly, thank you for all these great insights. When it comes to using AI to refine content, such as a press release, are you concerned with sharing information with AI that isn't announced? Will the information show up in results to other people?
Oh, Richard, a great question. Yeah, you have to worry about that, right? So what we all need to be is really, really good and really, really smart of understanding what is shared of our information and what is not shared of our information. So first, one from the perspective of like on your website, can your website be picked up by AI? You have to put all that information in there. An example would be on Substack. I have a Substack. One of the options that it asks you, do you want your information to be allowed to appear on AI? I mean, you have to choose that. So I said yes from the marketing aspect of it, but that's not precisely what you asked, but that's why it's two different things. So you need to determine what can be scraped from AI from a company point of view and just information. But specifically about your question, you wanted to know, like, if you're writing a press release and you put it in there. I have given a lot of thought on this one because, again, like I said, I have an AI agent. And I had to think, like, well, are people going to want to use this if they put their information in there and they think that I'm going to be able to see it? Because certainly in my playbook is we do not put any private information online at all. Even if you have the settings in there where it says don't train the model, don't research it, but you could put all the guidelines that you want in ChatGPT, which I hope that you all do that. Like, you can go in the settings and tell them what's public, what's not, how you want to write and put that information. But in terms of my information, I tell clients, do not put that heavy information in there. How I say it is company X, which is in this sector, is having an issue with this general thing. Because again, it's okay to use AI as a strategic thinking partner. It's in the prompt. Act as a financial expert and help me strategize and brainstorm different risks about this. Okay. Because that's how we work with it. That's how we play with it. And ask me questions about this. That's the brainstorming partner. But I would never put in information of a client and say, this client.com, this financial company is having this. Review this press release and fix the grammar and do all that. No, verboten, you don't want that, because truly, you never know. And how we're starting to see proof of this, like I was just citing the study about least empathetic, most dangerous AI for vulnerable people. Where do they get that information? From the AI websites. There was a story that came out, I think 2 weeks ago, when it said, what are the top questions people asking AI? Like, what? Like, how do they get that? And they even say in the article, it's because people have allowed that to go out there. So as a safety measure, I never put private information out there, but you can use it if you just say X, company A, company B, whatever, and just work it from a strategic point of view. And then you could write it and then use Grammarly or something like that. Great question.
Well said. Yeah. And I'd add to that. I think that's an awesome general rule, Molly. And I'd also encourage people to talk to your IT department if you're with a company or for their guidance, or if you're independent, just read the terms of service of the tools that you're using, where a lot of these concerns like Richard has comes up, because if you're using the free version of ChatGPT, for example, they train on what you say to it. So it's a real concern. If you put press release into the free version of ChatGPT, they're going to learn on that, and they might spill the beans by accident to someone else. Versus a lot of companies, including ours for our team, have done enterprise deal with ChatGPT, where on the enterprise deal, or even if you do a paid version yourself, they don't train on that data. And then with platforms like Muck Rack's PressPal.ai, we don't train on any of the inputs that we get in a way that could leak it. So it really comes down to the tools that you're using. And I think that's where you have to be vigilant. But if you don't know, then I think Molly's guidance on just making it anonymous and taking anything that could get you in trouble out of it is a good idea. It's like if you're getting help from a gossipy colleague, where you don't want it. Maybe they're a great writer, but they're going to tell everybody at the lunch break what what they worked on for you. So you have to be judicious. Let me take another question. We're running low on time, so I'll try to get in as many as we can before we hit the hour. From Amy. Oh, I think actually she's asking another user what they're working on. Let me see. Oh, we did have one from before where somebody was digging in further to the Wikipedia question. It's from Alan Rez. Molly, a few years back, you covered the challenge of correcting, updating Wikipedia, even your own content on Wikipedia. Can you quickly highlight that?
Alan Reed's good memory. Yes, I think it was a couple of years ago. I had interviewed a company that helped create Wikipedia pages. So it's on my PR Breakdown podcast. I cannot even tell you what number it is. It was probably in the 100s. But you know what? Just go to AI and ask AI and it will bring it up. But yeah, I interviewed them about how do you manage, about managing reputations with Wikipedia and what happens there and how to update it. It is a process. You can do it on your own. I mean, you can reach out to Wikipedia and you can correct things. Or there are a lot of agencies out there that will do it for you. But the most important piece of it, as I know that you know this, even if you were listening to it, is we have to make sure that it's accurate. So the first source would be to go to Wikipedia. And if it's a slow roll there, then you can just find a specialist who will do that for you. But to get a Wikipedia page, you have to be someone who has a lot of press to back it up. And that's how people get Wikipedia pages.
So again, it all starts and ends with PR, right? You can't get the Wikipedia page without PR. You can't get good GEO without PR. So doesn't sound like we'll have issues with job security for PR since it all comes back. Well, with that, I think we just had so many comments thanking you, Molly, for the great content that you shared.
I appreciate it.
But I think that we actually got to all the questions amazingly within the hour, and with 4 minutes to spare. So, I'll just turn it back to you, Molly, if you have any closing thoughts or comments that you do want to opine on, and then we can close it out.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Greg, and thanks to everyone for joining us today. I'll leap here from Stacy Kierstead's comment about covering this important conversation. It is a conversation, right? It's a very dynamic one, a very organic one, because everybody's wondering it right now. Like you can bring it up in any conversation, any room. If you're someone who plans conferences or breakout sessions, everybody wants to know this information. Everybody does. So you could certainly be a specialist in it. But my advice, and this is for myself and for everyone out there, is learn, really research it. This is so dynamic. It's moving in real time. We can't even keep up with the technology, but also the competition of the AI and the companies and high tech. It's constantly moving. But I say the more that you know and the more specialized you can be in this, you'll be a great asset to your company, whether that company is yours or you're working for someone else. But it does a great job in the PR of you, which matters as well. But I think it's an amazing tool that can help you in your work and in your own reputation.
Well said, Molly. Well, thanks again for doing this with us. I learned a lot. For those of you watching, if you want to pass this on to a colleague or, AI is listening too. So we're treating it. Yeah. No, but this is all going on the Muck Rack YouTube channel. So just go to YouTube, search for Muck Rack and subscribe to our channel. Subscribe to all of Molly's social feeds, especially TikTok, if you're not already following her there, for some great breakdowns. And Molly, I look forward to seeing you in New York in a couple of weeks. We're doing the Muck Rack Generative Pulse Summit, where we'll be getting a bunch of experts, including yourself, to talk about how PR affects GEO in person. How impassioned is that?
Yeah, I'm really excited to hear. I'm really excited to be a participant, but I'm also excited just to go there and hear what everybody has to say and learn more. So thank you for the invite.
Wonderful. Well, thanks to everybody for tuning in, and we'll catch you at the next LinkedIn Live. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.